Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another live streaming of the task training. I would like to say thank you po sa ating mga subscribers. Umabot na po tayo ng 22,500, no? Parang excited na ako. Sumobra na yung bilang ko, no? 22,500, no? Anyway, yun yung aming hinihintay kasi na doon nasa pag 25,000, doon na kami mag-celebrate, no? So, thank you very much and shout out po, Hari.
So, good evening po sa mga viewers. Shoutout po kay Ma'am Rosalina Tune.
Okay.
Maayong gabi daw sa tanan from Cebu. Siya pa lang ma'am yung nagko-comment.
Okay.
Ay ma'am, meron na pala. Si Ma'am Janet Alusiman, good evening daw po.
Okay.
Shoutout kay Ma'am Eunice Punsalan from Quezon Province.
Oh, Quezon Province, yes. Nice.
Sila pa lang ma'am,
Okay.
8 viewers po.
Okay, so good evening po ulit, and our topic for tonight is the value-added tax and percentage tax under the CREATE law, and also yung final tax under the CREATE law. And then we will have our question and answer. No? So for the value-added tax, dito po sa CREATE law natin, no, ito yung in-amend ng CREATE law natin, meron siyang VAT exempt transactions na sinasabi, no? Under Section 4.109, number 4, no? Paragraph 4. Ano yung sinasabi niya dito? Ito yung sale of residential lot na ang value ay 1,500,000 at yung house and lot na 2,500,000, no, as adjusted. So yun po yung exempt sa VAT, no? Pag ang sale ng lot mo is 1,500,000 at saka yung residential mo na house and lot, ibig sabihin may bahay na at saka lupa binenta mo, yung 2,500,000 na sale is exempt from VAT. Kasi ang ibig sabihin nun, hindi siya umabot ng 3 million na threshold sa VAT, no? Kaya ano siya, yung exempt siya sa value-added tax. Provided that beginning January 1, 2021, the VAT exemption shall only apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business. Sale of real property utilized for socialized housing as defined by Republic Act number 7279 as amended. So, yung beginning January 1 of 2021, yung exemption, yun lang sale ng property na hindi held for sale to customers. Kasi pag held for sale to customer na siya, halimbawa, developer na yun nagbibenta, hindi na siya kasama dun sa exemptions. No? So, dwelling with selling price not more than 2 million as adjusted in 2011 using the 2010 Consumer Price Index value. Provided further that every 3 years thereafter, the amount stated therein shall be adjusted to its present value using the Consumer Price Index as published by the Philippine Statistics Authority or the PSA. So, ano na yung exempt? Starting January of 2021, yung selling price not more than 2 million. No? So, yun na po yung exempt. And then another example sa VAT is the sale, importation, printing, or publication of books and any newspaper, magazine, journal, review bulletin, or any educational reading materials covered by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization or UNESCO. Agreement on the importation of educational, scientific, and cultural materials, including the digital or electronic format thereof. So, kung dati yung mga libro is hard copy lang, no, yung mga nakabound, ngayon kasama na dun sa exemption yung mga digital or electronic format or yung mga soft copies. Provided that the materials enumerated herein are not devoted principally to the publication of paid advertisements. Kasi pagka paid advertisement na yung ipapublish mo, taxable na po yan. Bakit? Kasi nag-earn na yan ng income. Provided further that the material enumerated herein are compliant with the requirements set forth by the National Book Development Board pursuant to Republic Act number 8047. Meron tayong National Book Development Board. Ito yung regulatory agency natin when it comes to uh, publication ng books, no? Nandiyan yan sa UP yung kanilang office. Another is the sale or exempt transactions po to pagdating sa VAT. Sale or importation of prescription drugs and medicines for diabetes, high cholesterol, and hypertension. So yung mga high blood, high cholesterol, diabetes, beginning January 1, 2020, exempt na yan sa VAT. No? And then number 2, cancer, mental illness, tuberculosis and kidney diseases beginning January 1, 2021. Kaya itong January 2021 may mga nadagdag na naman ng mga gamot exempted from value-added tax. Ano-ano yung mga yon? At para saan? Para sa cancer, sa mental illness, tuberculosis and kidney diseases. And then we also have the exemption from VAT under this subsection shall only apply to the sale or importation by the manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, and retailer of drugs and medicines included in the list of approved drugs and medicines. Kasi yung hindi kasama sa approved drugs and medicines, hindi din yan kasama sa exemption. Issued by the Department of Health. Okay. Next, letter B, sale or importation of the following beginning January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023. So yung exemption nila lasted only for 2 years, no? 2021 to 2023. Ito yung capital equipment, its spare parts and raw materials necessary for the production of personal protective equipment. Ito yung mga equipment na ginagamit sa COVID, no? Components such as coveralls, gowns, surgical cap, surgical mask, N95 mask, scrub suits, goggles, and face shield, double or surgical gloves, dedicated shoes, and shoe covers for COVID-19 prevention. No, so pagka ganyan, hindi siya kasali sa subject of VAT, no? Yung mga ginagamit sa COVID. Next, all drugs, vaccines, and medical devices specifically prescribed and directly used for the treatment of COVID-19. So, hindi rin po kasama sa VAT. Number 3, drugs for the treatment of COVID-19 approved by the Food and Drug Administration for use in clinical trials, including raw materials directly necessary for the productions of such drugs. No? Pati yung raw materials for the production of drugs for the treatment of COVID-19, they are not subject to value-added tax. Provided that the Department of Trade and Industry or the DTI shall certify that such equipment, spare parts, or raw materials for importation are not locally available or insufficient in quantity or not in accordance with the quality or specification required. Provided further that for item 2, within 60 days from the effectivity of the CREATE, and every 3 months thereafter, the Department of Health, or DOH, shall issue a list of prescription drugs and medical devices covered by this provision. Provided finally that for items 1 and 3 hereof, on the sale or importation of equipment, spare parts, and raw materials for the production of PPE components, as well as the sale or importation of raw materials directly necessary for the production of drugs for the treatment of COVID-19, the suppliers or importer shall submit for purposes of availing the exemptions of the following. So ito yung mga requirements, no, para ma-exempt sa VAT yung mga drugs for COVID-19. Number 1, certified true copy of license to operate issued to the manufacturer buyer by the DOH FDA, authorizing the manufacture of medical grade PPE components and drugs for the treatment of COVID-19. And number 2, sworn declaration from the manufacturer buyer that the item shall be used for the manufacture of the PPE components and drugs for the treatment of COVID-19. And then the exemption claim under this subsection shall be subject to post-audit by the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the Bureau of Customs as may be applicable. Bakit siya post-audit? Kasi hindi siya titingnan habang nagpo-purchase ka pa kasi mabilisan. Dapat mabilis. But may post-audit. Ibig sabihin, tapos na yung transaction, you will be subjected to audit. No? Okay. So there is an illustration here, no? Si GRAC Corporation is a VAT-registered entity and the holder of license to operate issued by FDA to manufacture medical-grade PPE components such as coveralls, gown, surgical cap, surgical mask, N95 masks, scrub suits, goggles, face shield, double or surgical gloves, dedicated shoes, and shoe covers for COVID-19 prevention. So ito yung transactions niya April to June 2021. So nag-import siya ng raw materials worth 2 million, no? Kasi hindi locally available yung raw materials. Nag-import siya ng capital equipment. Ito yung ginagamit niya na pang-manufacture doon sa gamot, 25 million. And then another raw materials, nag-import pa rin siya kahit locally available na 1 million. And then, sale or transfer of raw materials to an affiliated company, which is also holder of license to operate issued by FDA. So, 500,000. Yan ang transactions niya. And then, for VAT purposes, ito yung treatment. No? Yung importation of raw materials not locally available, exempt siya from VAT. No? Kasi imported item siya, so not locally available. Yun namang importation of capital equipment also exempt, no? Kasi PPE siya used for the production ng COVID drugs, no? And then, itong importation of raw materials locally available, sinubject na siya sa VAT. Bakit? Kasi available naman siya locally, bakit nag-import pa, no? Subject since the imported item is locally available. Kasi kung locally available siya, dito ka na bibili. But the problem is minsan mahal, no? So, sipin mo na lang, dagdag yung 12% na VAT. Sale of transfer of raw materials to an affiliated, exempt, no? And then company which is also holder of license to operate, so exempt siya sa VAT. Okay? So, yun po yung transactions doon sa related to COVID-19, no? Yung purchase ng materials, ng property, plant, and equipment for the manufacture of the COVID-19 drugs. And then another exempt transaction is the sale or lease of goods or properties or the performance of services other than the transaction mentioned in the preceding paragraph. The gross annual sales and or receipts do not exceed the amount of 3 million pesos, which is the threshold po natin for value-added tax purposes. So for purposes of these regulations, the 3 million gross annual sales shall comprise of the business total revenues from sales of its products, which are either goods or services, including non-refundable advance deposit or payments for services, net of discounts, sales returns and allowances covering the calendar or fiscal year, sales incidental to the registered operations of the business shall also be included, no? Pursuant to Section 105 of the Tax Code as amended. No? So yung 3 million, ano siya, total revenue from sales ng products. Okay. Tax on persons exempt from VAT. So ano naman yung tax on persons exempt from VAT under Section 4-116, no? So yung mga persons naman daw na exempt sa VAT under Section 109, and then from the payment of VAT, and who is not a VAT registered person shall pay a tax equivalent to 3% of his quarterly sales. Pero anong ginawa nito ng Create Law? Provided that effective July 1, 2020 until June 30, 2023, the rate shall be 1%. No? Magpatay ka nga ng lamok-hari. Andun, no? Andun yung pamatay, oh. Ayun. Ang sakit. Okay. So, ang dami. Tingnan mo. So, yung mga persons exempt from VAT, regularly po yung kanilang dapat bayaran na tax is 3%. But because of the Create Law, yung 3% na percentage tax na yun, ginawa muna na 1%. Pero temporary lang from July 2020 up to June 30, 2023. No? So, bali 2 years lang. Okay. So, transitory provisions, ito yung Section 3, no? uh, yung VAT registered taxpayer who opted to register as non-VAT, no, as a result of the additional VAT exempt provisions ng tax code, uh, but did not meet the threshold set under Section 109 thereof, shall, letter A, submit inventory list of unused invoices. Hindi siya umabot ng threshold. Kasi naging 3 million na yung threshold, di ba? Submit an inventory list of unused invoices and or receipts as of the date of filing of application for update of registration from VAT to non-VAT, indicating the number of booklets and its corresponding serial numbers. Ito yung inventory of unused receipts, no? Surrender the said invoices and or receipts for cancellation. Bakit po ito ika-cancel? Kasi hindi na niya pwedeng gamitin. Why? Because ano na siya, yung non-VAT na siya. So definitely, yung VAT receipt, hindi pwedeng gamitin. Bakit hindi po pwedeng gamitin yung VAT receipts? Because VAT receipts carries with it advance payment of taxes. At ano po yung advance payment of taxes? That is the input tax, no? Kasi ang isang buyer, pag bumili siya ng goods and services, binigyan siya ng VAT receipts. Yung VAT receipt na binigay sa kanya, pwede niya i-claim ang 12% na input VAT doon. That's why, ang sabi natin, the VAT receipt carries with it 12% advance payment of taxes. Yun yung input tax. So, dapat yung VAT receipts na yan, isurrender yan para makancel, no? At hindi na magamit. The number of unused invoices or receipts as determined by the taxpayer with the approval of the appropriate bearer office may be allowed for use provided the phrase non-VAT registered as of date of filing of the application for update of registration not valid for claim of input tax. Hindi siya valid para i-claim ng input tax. No, nakastamp, nakalagay doon sa mismong resibo. No? Face of the receipt. Okay. Until new registered non-VAT invoices or receipts have been received by the taxpayer or until August 31, 2021. Upon receipt of newly printed registered non-VAT invoices or receipts, the taxpayer shall submit immediately a new inventory list of unsurrendered for cancellation all unused previously stamped invoices or receipts. Halimbawa, ang dami talagang resibo, so nakiusap yung taxpayer, gamitin ko muna itong VAT receipts, stamp na lang ng non-VAT. Sabi naman ng BIR, okay. Pagdating na nung resibo niya na non-VAT na talaga, isurrender na niya ulit yung mga stamp receipt niya na VAT at isurrender niya ulit sa BIR for cancellation. No? So in short, wala na siyang natitira na VAT receipts. No? Okay, what happened? The taxpayer shall treat the resulting excess taxes paid due to the inclusion in the items exempt from VAT or adjustment and percentage tax rates as the case may be in the following manner. So, since nag-non-VAT na siya, so what happened to the VAT? Unutilized VAT paid on local purchases and importation under subsection 4.109-1B AE and 4.109-1B BB hereof from their specified effectivity under RA number 11534 or ito yung create law, no? So January 1, 2021 until the effectivity of these regulations may be carried over to the succeeding taxable quarters or be charged as part of cost pursuant to section 110 of the tax code. Ang dami talaga, hari, masakit mga gat. And then pwede na yung hindi niya nagamit na input tax, pwede niya i-claim as cost, no? Kasi hindi nga naman nagamit. Nandyan sa likod, alam nila, hindi sila mapatay dyan. Okay, so input VAT which are directly attributable to good now classified as VAT exempt may be allowed as part of cost. Kasi po, ito ang dami talagang may concern dito. Why? Kasi non-VAT sila. Tapos ang gusto nila, hindi ipapasa sa kanila yung VAT. No? Yung po pwede yun. Bakit? Pag VAT ka, may pakinabang ka doon sa ah, pass on mo na 12% VAT, no? Kasi may input ka eh, no? Ma-offset mo sila. Pero pag ikaw ay non-VAT, huwag nyo na pong isipin yung input. No? Kasi pag nakita nila na yung resibo, add 12% input, but ay non-VAT ako. Tanggalin nyo po ito, hindi pwede itong i-add sa akin. Cost nyo po yan. Ano ibig sabihin ng cost? Gastos nyo. Why gastos? Kasi kasama yan doon sa pagbili nyo. Kaya hindi nyo yan pwedeng tanggalin. Why? Kasi that is the value added tax of the seller, hindi po sa inyo. No? Kaya ang daming nagrereklamo talaga dyan. Pinipilit talaga niya. Kasi ma'am, dinagdag sa akin, hindi naman ako VAT taxpayer. Bakit ako magbabayad ng 12% na input tax? Sabi niya, hindi ko naman kailangan yan. Hindi mo nga kailangan, siya kailangan niya. At saka siya yung nagbenta. No? So, ano na yan yung kasama na po yan sa cost niyo. And huwag yun nang isipin. Kasi doon pa lang sa recording natin, sa books of account, wala na kayo nire-record doon na input tax. Anong nire-record nyo doon? The whole amount or the selling price or the whole amount ng purchase price, yun po yung nire-record nyo doon. Wala na kayo nire-record na input tax. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Wala kayo i-recognize na input tax, lahat yun gastos nyo, expense nyo. Why? Kasi ang value added tax naman, yung input nila, hindi nila pwedeng i-claim yun as an expense. Why? Kasi ino-offset nila yun, contra account yun ng kanilang output tax. No? Kaya tingnan mo ninyo ang recording ng VAT, nakabukod yung value added tax na amount. And then pag nag-declare sila ng gross income sa kanilang income tax return, that is net of VAT. No? Hindi kasama ang VAT doon. Okay. So, yung rateable portion ng VAT exempt at saka yung batable, kung batable kayo, i-prorate ninyo yan. No? Pero siguro sa isang video natin yan, hindi yan pwedeng i-discuss dito ngayon. No? Ma-mix up tayo. Assumption, no additional purchase for the period. No? So, itong si MMC Pharmaceutical Corporation, meron siyang exclusive distributorship ng brand, no, ng drugs for cancer. So, anong for cancer? Wala na siyang VAT, no? So, inventory of cancer drugs as of December 31, 2020, 200 million. Sale for cancer medicines, goods from previous inventory, 200 million. Total sales for the period, 500 million. Percentage of sale of cancer medicines to total sales for the period is 40%. Bakit 40%? Kasi 200,000. No, yung kanyang sale ng cancer medicines. So, all input taxes from the existing inventory of cancer drugs have been utilized as of December 31, 2020. So, yung inventory niya ng cancer drugs naubos talaga as of December 31, 2020. So, tingnan nyo, no, ang daming may cancer. My goodness. So, lahat ng tao yata may ng cancer cells sa katawan. Kaya tingnan nyo, mabenta na yung ng cancer. Mabenta na yung gamot ng cancer. And then, all input taxes from the existing inventory of cancer drugs have been utilized as of December 31, 2020. Ubos yung kanyang inventory ng cancer drugs. No? So, mabenta. Assuming that MMC Pharmaceutical Corporation incurred 20 million of input tax. So, naka-accumulate siya ng 20 million input tax. Ano tong input tax? Ito yung value-added tax on purchases. No? So, for the period from purchases of medicines, other than those prescribed for cancer and no additional purchases of prescription drugs for cancer was purchased during the period. Okay. So, paano i-compute yung value-added tax. No? So, ito na yung nagsabi kanina na i-prorate. No? So, sales subject to VAT is 300 million. Multiply by VAT rate, so we have, you have to multiply by 12%. No? As output tax for the period is 36 million. Deduct input tax for the period na 20 million, so ang VAT payable is 16 million. So, yun yung babayaran niya na VAT for the period. No? Pero hindi siya nag-prorate dito sa input tax. No? Kasi sa exempt at saka sa hindi exempt. Assumption 2, option to change charge to cost the input VAT directly identifiable to now VAT exempt goods. No? Exempt na kasi eh. So, anong mangyari? BTG Pharmaceutical Corporation incurred 20 million of input tax for the period from purchases of medicines other than those prescribed for cancer, and additional purchase of prescription drugs for cancer was purchased during the period. There was an unutilized input tax of 10 million coming from the inventory of cancer drugs from previous period that was carried over to the succeeding quarter, and 50% of the inventory of cancer drugs was sold during the year. The VAT payable shall be computed as follows. Sales subject to VAT is 300 million multiplied by the VAT rate of 12%. So we have the output tax for the period of 36 million. And then we have to deduct now the input tax for the period. So how much is our input tax for the period? We have the carried over from previous period, 10 million. And then the input tax from current purchases, which is 20 million. No? So total input taxes is 30 million. Deduct input tax identifiable to exempt sales, 50% of inventory. So magkano yung 50% ng inventory equals 5 million. So magkano na lang ngayon yung total input tax niya? 25 million. So how much is the VAT payable? 11 million. Why? Kasi bawas mo yung 25 million na computed total input mo from the output na 12% ng sales, which is 36 million. So, i-deduct mo ngayon yung 25 million, your VAT payable is 11 million. No? Okay. 5 million is directly identifiable to exempt sales shall be charged to cost. No? Kasi 15% lang ng inventory ang chinarge sa input tax. So, yung 5 million, charge mo na yun sa cost. No? Claim mo na yun as expense doon sa income statement mo. Assumption 3, option to charge as part of cost a rateable portion of the input VAT not directly identifiable to goods now classified as VAT exempt. So ito na yung magpo-prorate ka, no? GBA, example, this is an example na. GBA Pharmaceutical Corporation sold drugs for cancer which were part of the corp's previous and current purchases. Total sales for the period is 500 million, 50% of which is VAT exempt. No? Imagine sa 500, so 250 million VAT exempt. The corporation also incurred 20 million of input tax for the period from purchase of medicines, including those prescribed for cancers. So, ibig sabihin, itong 20 million na input tax niya is inclusive doon sa exempt portion. There was an unutilized input tax of 10 million coming from the previous period but cannot be attributed to the inventory of drugs for cancer. So, the VAT payable shall be computed as follows. Sales subject to VAT, di ba kalahati lang, 50% lang, 500 million. Kaya yung sales subject to VAT is only 250 million. How much is our value added tax rate? 12%. So, we have to multiply the 250 million by 12%. No? So, we have the output tax for the period. Ito yung 250 million multiplied by 12%. We have 30 million. Okay. So, deduct input tax. I-compute na natin ngayon magkano ba yung input tax that we can deduct from the 30 million na output. So, we have our input tax carried over from previous period. We have 10 million. We have input tax from current purchases, 20 million. Total available input tax is 30 million. I-deduct pa natin yung input tax rateable to exempt sales. Bakit rateable to exempt sales? 50% of total sales. Magkano yung total sales natin? Bakit naging 50 million na to? No? So, 50% of total sales, magkano yung total sales natin is 250 million. No? So, 15 million. Sabi niya nila, no? Pero hindi ko siya makita kasi. 15 million allocated to exempt sales shall be charged to cost. No? So, 15 million lang yung allocable niya dito sa 30 million. Ang rateable niya is 15 million. So, kalahati nito, hindi to 50% of total sales, 50% to of total available input tax. No, nagkamali lang sila dito. Kasi kung 50% of total sales, di 125 million yan. So, 50% lang to ng total input tax na 30 million. So, 50 million na lang yung pwedeng i-deduct as input tax. So, that the VAT payable is still 15 million. No? So, ang kalahati nung input tax na hindi attributable to the exempt sale, yung 15 million noon, i-claim natin as cost, no? Anong cost natin? Direct cost, no? Pwede. Pwede siya kasi component naman siya ng inventory. Letter B, excess percentage tax payment as a result of the decrease of tax rate from 3% to 1%. Ito yung naman yung provision ng percentage tax na dati siyang 3% but temporarily July 2020 to June 2023, ginawa siyang 1%. No? Ito naman yung provision for the percentage tax. Excess percentage tax payments as a result of the decrease of tax rate from 3% to 1% starting July 1, 2020 until the effectivity of these regulations may be carried forward for the succeeding taxable quarters by reflecting the excess percentage tax payment under line 17 of the quarterly percentage tax return or BIA form number 2551Q. Other tax credit or payment specifying therein as carryover excess percentage taxes paid from previous quarters. No? So, from 3% to 1%. No? I-carry forward mo yung excess na binayad mo noon. No? So, kung mag-carry forward ka, carry over mo, apply mo siya sa quarter na hindi mo pa siya nagamit. No? So lagay mo siya na other tax credit. Next is the excess unutilized input tax as a result of the change of status from VAT to non-VAT registration as amended may be subject to refund or the issuance of tax credit certificate at the option of the taxpayer. Kasi masyadong malaki yung unutilized input nung VAT ka pa, so ngayon na nag-non-VAT ka na, pwede mo siyang i-claim ng refund or tax credit certificate. No? So, kailan pa to? April 7, 2021 pa to. Pero, ni-remind lang natin sa inyo because this is still part of the CREATE law. No? Shout out? Okay. At saka may question na bago tayo pumunta sa final withholding tax.
Meron.
Na-related pa rin sa CREATE law, ha? Okay.
Apo.
Sige.
Shoutout muna ma'am kay
Mm.
Ina Official from Pangasinan.
Okay.
Kay Sir Ryan Deocades.
Okay.
Kay Ma'am Caron G. Shoutout din po kay Ma'am Liza Soronda from Dipolog City.
Okay.
Kay Ma'am Beth Inosilias, magandang gabi daw po.
Okay.
Kay Ma'am Estela Bestor.
Okay.
Kay Ma'am Shirley Bernal, shoutout po.
Okay.
Shoutout din po kay Sir Jeffrey Salceda. Good evening
Okay.
daw po. Kay Ma'am Fe Herrera.
Good evening, Ma'am Fe.
Apo. Good evening din daw ma'am, sabi ni Ma'am Lilian Yao.
Okay.
Apo. Sila pa lang ma'am.
Okay.
Tapos yung question ma'am,
Sige.
galing po kay Ma'am Shirley Bernal.
Okay.
Sabi niya po, so batable developers selling house and lot regardless of the price, their products are batable?
Yes. Yes po. Yes po. Lalo-lalo na kung hindi sila sa socialized housing, ha? Ang exempt lang sa VAT is yung socialized housing. Pero pag developer ka, regardless of your, yung sale. Pero kasi, ang sale po sa real estate is based on per unit, no? Kaya ang threshold nila dyan is per item. No? Pero ang sa mga developer talaga, subject pa na sila sa value added tax doon lang sila may exempt kung ang kanilang binibenta is ah, yung socialized housing. Kasi yung socialized housing, may exemption po talaga yan. And then, meron lang siyang limit. And how much is the limit? Diba yung 200 million at saka 200 million na limit. Ito yung sinasabi dito sa 4-2021. Oh? Ito very clear to. Revenue Regulations 4-2021 dated April 8, 2021. Anong nilagay dito? Provided that beginning January 1, 2021, the VAT exemption shall only apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business. No? Sale of real property utilized for socialized housing. So, kasama pa rin siya sa exemption. Pero may threshold siya, no? At magkano yung threshold? 2 million. No? Yun yung sinasabi dito. Okay. Kasi yung kagaya ng lease, held for lease, regardless of the amount, pag VAT registered ka, subject to VAT siya eh. No? Okay. Next.
Wala naman. Shoutout pa lang po ulit kay
Sige.
Ma'am Jonalyn Bonlang.
Okay.
Apo, sila pa lang po, ma'am.
Sige. Tuloy po tayo sa Revenue Regulations 2-2021. Ito naman yung final tax, no? On certain passive income under the CREATE law. No? Kasi itong si CREATE, ang dami itong binago eh, no? Kasi ito si CREATE kasi, yung CREATE law natin, ito yung tumulong sa atin dahil sa COVID nga. Kaya ano to sa mga tao, tulong to sa mga tao, no? So under this Revenue Regulations 2-2021 on the final tax on certain passive income, Section 2.57.1, income payment subject to final withholding tax. Ano pong ibig sabihin ng final withholding tax? Hindi siya creditable. Ano yung certificate mo dyan? 2306. Ito yung opposite ng creditable. Ano naman yung certificate ng creditable? 2307. No? Pag nakita mo 2307, kailangan ko pang mag-file. Pag nakita mo 2306, hindi na kailangan mag-file. Kasi final na. No? So, ito final. So, ibig sabihin ng certificate mo dito, 2306. Income payments to non-resident alien engaged in trade or business in the Philippines. So, yun yung letter B. On what income? On certain passive income. A tax of 20% is hereby imposed on certain passive income received from all sources within the Philippines. So, pag non-resident ka, engaged in trade or business, ito yung mga na-receive mong income, subject siya sa 20% na final withholding tax. No? Letter A, cash and property dividend from a domestic corporation. So, pagka non-resident alien ka at nakatanggap ka ng cash and property dividend, subject siya sa 20% final withholding tax. Pero, may pero pa yan. If there is a tax treaty, no, between the Philippines and that country where the recipient of this passive income is a resident at meron tayong tax treaty, the tax treaty will prevail. No? Applyan nyo yan kasi lower ang rate ng tax treaty. And then letter B, share in distributable net income after tax of a partnership except general professional partnership of which he is a partner. No, pagka partnership naman, subject pa rin sa 20%, pero hindi kasama yung general professional partnership. Okay. Letter C, interest from any currency bank deposit and yield or any other monetary benefit from deposit substitutes and from trust funds and similar arrangement. So, subject pa rin po sa 20% na final tax. Okay. Royalties, except on books. Kasi yung royalty naman sa books is 10%. So, pagka royalties yan, ano ba ang royalties? Royalties is payment for intangibles, mga licenses, franchise. So, magbabayad ka ng royalties. Software, no, magbayad licenses, magbabayad ka na yung royalty payment dyan, subject to 20% final tax yan. Except royalty on books. Kasi pagka books na, nagbayad ka halimbawa ng copyright sa books, 10% lang. No? 10% na final tax. Final withholding tax lang. Ang final tax, ano yung certificate niya? 2306. No? Letter A, prices, except prices amounting to 10,000 or less, which shall be subject to tax under subsection B of Section 24 of the Tax Code as amended. And other winnings. Ano yung Section B? No? Section 24. Isama mo siya sa compensation. Pag nag-tax ka doon sa winner ng 10,000 na price, no? Isama siya sa compensation. Okay. Other winnings, except winnings from Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, games amounting to 10,000 or less, which shall be exempt from income tax. Pagka naman doon ka sa PCSO, yung games amounting to 10,000 or less, exempt naman sa income tax. Pero pag sa iba ka nanalo, yung price na 10,000 should be included in your compensation. No, andoon siya i-withhold. Letter A, income payments to a resident foreign corporation. Kanina, alien yun, engaged in trade or business. Ito naman, resident siya, pero foreign corporation. The following form of income shall be subject to final withholding tax in the hands of the foreign corporation. So, tax on branch remittances, no? How much? 15%. Marunong talaga sila mga gathari. Pati sa likod, no? Magkano yung babayad nila sa tax on branch remittances? 15%, no? And then interest on, pero may ano din yan, may exception. Ano yung exemption? Pagka ang nagbigay sa iyo ng branch profit remittance is Philippine Economic Zone Authority or doon siya nakaregister, no? So, hindi siya kasali dito sa 15% na tax on branch remittances. And then interest on any currency bank deposits, magkano? 20%. Interest from depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system, 15%. No? Capital gains. Capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange. Sana si Calvo na lang. Capital gains. Interest on any currency bank deposit and yield or any monetary benefit. No? Talagang nakakaano itong mga lamok. 20%. Interest income derived from depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system, 15%. No? Also, capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, 15%. So, ang dami. Ito, ang recipient dito is resident foreign corporation. No? So, ito yung mga final tax subject yung income niya. Ano yun? Tax on branch remittances na 15%. Interest on currency bank deposit, 20%. Interest from expanded foreign currency deposit system, 15%. Capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, 15% also. Next is the income derived from all sources within the Philippines by non-resident foreign corporation. So kanina, resident foreign corporation. Ito naman, non-resident and then foreign corporation pa siya. So in general, gross income derived from all sources within the Philippines such as interest, dividend, rents, royalties, salaries, premiums, reinsurance, except reinsurance premiums. And then annuities, emoluments, or other fixed or determinable annual, periodic, or casual gains, profits, and income, and capital gains, except capital gains realized from sale, exchange, disposition of shares of stocks, is subject to capital gains tax, no? Under item 7 thereof. No, yung item 7, 15%, no? Dividend received from a domestic corporation, 15%. No? It is generally subject to 25%. However, reduced rate of 15% shall be applied. Okay. Shall be applied subject to the condition that the country in which the non-resident foreign corporation is domiciled shall allow a credit against the tax due from the said non-resident foreign corporation, which are equivalent to taxes deemed to have been paid in the Philippines equal to 10%, no? Effective January 1, 2021, which represent the difference between the regular income tax rate for non-resident foreign corporation under Section 28B as amended and the 15% tax on dividend as provided. Capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, 15%. No? Sa government money payments naman, ito yung sa mga government, magkano yung withholding niya? 1%, no? For the period July 1, 2020 until June 30, 2023. Okay. So yan po yung mga final withholding taxes natin under the CREATE law. And I have discussed to you already the value-added tax provision under the CREATE law also. Okay? So, may question pa, Ari?
Meron.
Oh, sige.
Tanong po ni Ma'am Cheryl Tulagan.
Okay.
Kung ang Poro Port or yung PPFC po ba same with PEZA na no zero rated?
Ano yung PPFC?
Poro Port daw, ma'am.
Oo, yes. Kasi economic zone din po yan yung Poro Point. Same din po yan siya ng PESA. No? Actually, that is also an economic zone and preferential rate din po, 5% in lieu of all taxes din po yung kanilang babayaran. Okay?
Pala yung tanong mo. Shoutout po kay Ma'am Bernadette Lonon.
Okay. So, ilan pa yung ating viewers?
21.
No? So, tapos na po tayo mag-discuss doon sa value-added tax natin at saka final tax under the withholding tax system. No? So, yun po yung Revenue Regulations number 4-2021 for the VAT and yung 2-2021 for the final withholding tax. Yan po yung mga provisions natin sa CREATE law. And then itong CREATE law natin, ang daming dinala niyan na mga magaganda na beneficial sa taxpayers natin, no? Yung mga expanded deductions at saka yung mga exemptions, no? At saka yung nilower niya ang rates, no, ng tax. So, i-avail po natin yung sa CREATE law natin. No? Kasi may mga incentives diyan, pati yung mga procurement ng mga machineries, no, na pag in-applyan natin, pwede siyang exempt sa customs, no, sa customs duties. So, wala na po tayong mga tanong and meron kasi tayong bukas yung part of the 6 days natin na comprehensive seminar for tax agent, no? Although kanina nagloko yung aming internet, ngayon meron, so ang ginawa namin pre-recorded videos, but bukas, no, tuloy na po tayo sa ating Zoom. No? Magzo-Zoom na tayo bukas. So, wala na, Hari? Okay, so I would like to say good evening po sa lahat and let's call it a night.